Today I wanted to do a lab that's a little bit more involved. So I wanted to create an application load balancer and send traffic from the application load balancer to an auto scaling group, and then have the auto scaling group manage EC2 instances in a private subnet while the application load balancer is on the public subnet. That way I can send traffic from the internet through the application load balancer to my auto scaling group. For that I'm going to need a VPC with some prerequisites. I already created the VPC, so I have a VPC with two public subnets and two private subnets. So my public subnets are going out to the internet using the internet gateway, and then my private subnets are using a NAT gateway. So let me take a look at the NAT gateway. The NAT gateway is available, so yeah, that's working. Okay, perfect. Alright, so I'm going to start by creating a couple of security groups. So let's give this security group a name. I was tempted to give the security group the name SG-something. Just keep in mind, this is not, you can't start a security group with a name that way. So let's call it application load balancer 2 auto scaling group, and then SG at the end. Let's give it an O1, alright? I'm going to call it SG for traffic from application load balancer to auto scaling group. Okay, we select the VPC. This is the VPC that we just created, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to create an inbound rule for port 80. That way the application load balancer can send traffic to my auto scaling group, on port 80. So, and I'm gonna say for everything, all right? Great. My second security group will be for my my auto scaling group instances. Right, so this is the one that I'm going to use in the launch template, and I'm going to call it web auto scaling group security group 1. Okay, so allow traffic to my EC2 instances. Again, we select the VPC that we created for this, and we're gonna add a rule, and this rule will be, we're going to allow port 80 as well, but this time we're going to allow it from the application load balancer security group. Okay, let me see. Perfect. Okay, no problem. So we have already the security groups. Let's go ahead and do create the launch template, and okay, lab launch template 1 template for auto scaling group. Alright, remember in the last lab we selected this option here, so the wizard for the launch template can give us some guidance on what, which ones are the required options that we have here if we want to do auto scaling. So because we're doing auto scaling, I'm going to select that just to have the visual here. So you see here it says required. Alright, so it requires an operating system. We're going to say AWS. It doesn't require an instance type, but I will show you why later on. But I'm going to take T2 micro just to control the kind of instance that I'm going to be able to build. I'm going to create a key pair. I'm going to call it key 1. And save that key pair somewhere on my desktop for now. Okay, networking. I'm not gonna select, I'm not gonna have the networking included on the launch template. That way the auto scaling group is gonna decide where the EC2 instance is gonna land, if it's gonna be in one availability group or zone or the other one. The security group, we created the web security group, right? Okay. And let's look at the advanced configuration. I am also gonna create an instance profile for this. I'll create a new role, EC2, and I'm going to call it launch template profile. Okay. All right. That way we can make sure that we can access the EC2 instance from the systems manager. All right. Okay, so I'm not gonna select any of these options, so I'm gonna be doing a lot of configuration on the auto scaling group today, which is it's gonna be the focus of the lab. One thing that I want to do, right, for the metadata version, I'm going to allow both of them because I want to play around with it from the application load balancer when I try to access the instance from the internet. And let me get a little script here for my user data. Alright, so very simple script. I just asked ChatGPT to give me a script that would give me a landing page for a website using Amazon Linux 2023, and that's the one I'm going to use for now. Alright, so let's work on the load balancing. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just create a target group. So it will be instance. I'm going to give it a name. Let's see the options that we have here. So it will be protocol, the VPC. I'm going to use my VPC. The health check, I'm going to leave it as HTTP. So as long as the EC2 instance is responding on the / HTTP, it will be healthy. Okay. And that's it. Okay, so I already have a target group. I have it, on the correct VPC. Perfect. Okay. Next. Review. Brilliant. Alright, I'm gonna create an application load balancer. So here we have three options. We have a network load balancer, and we have the gateway load balancer, and then we have the application load balancer. This is the one that we're gonna use today, which is, it's just for web traffic. So obviously we still have the option of the classic load balancer. That's interesting. But anyway, let's say load balance. Let's give it a name. Let's call it web application load balancer 1. Alright, so we're gonna say that's internet facing, that it is on the project VPC, and we are gonna say that it's gonna be on the 2 subnets. The load balance is gonna be on my public subnets. subnets. Okay. And the security group, we're gonna use the load balancer to auto scaling group security group. Okay. What else do we have? The listener, port 80, perfect. Forward to target group. I'm gonna select the target group that we just created. Alright. And that's it. That should do it. Now let's build our auto scaling group. The main focus of the lab is going to be the auto scaling group. So once we create an auto scaling group, I wanted to start exploring to see, you know, everything that I can do with the auto scaling group. So okay, I'm going to call it auto scaling group web tier 01. I'm going to select the launch template that I have to just created. I can specify the version. Right, I'm going to leave it to default. I have only one version for now. But one of the things that I wanted to see is what happens if I have to make changes to my EC2 instances. How do I change the version of my launch template here? So that's, we're going to take a look at that in a minute. So the VPC and the availability zone. So now the auto scaling group needs to be on the private subnets. Okay. Alright, we're gonna leave it as balance, best effort. I'm gonna attach the load balancer. Alright. Alright, so here is where we start, you know, talking a little bit about auto scaling. So I'm gonna say that my desired capacity will be 2. Okay. So my minimum desired capacity is also 2, and I'm gonna say maximum of 10. Alright. So what that means is that I don't want to spend a lot of money on EC2 instances, so I'm saying always run 2 instances, meaning I'm gonna have at all times 1 instance on each availability zone that protects me from any failure of you know, if I lose an availability zone, then I have an instance in the other availability zone while the auto scaling group starts building new instances. And you know, if I give it some, you know, scaling policy, then it will be able to go all the way up to 10 instances, depending on the scaling policy that I'm not going to put a scaling policy right now, right? I could certainly do target scaling, right? And for example, in this case, right, if I say target scaling is going to monitor the CPU utilization in my instances. So I can say, well, if my instance goes above 50% CPU utilization, then go ahead and start the instance, and then I can have a warm-up time here, just to avoid, just to make sure that I don't have just a peak of 50% and then, you know, it triggers auto scaling, right? So it's gonna have to wait a little bit of time just to make sure that that this target was reached. But we'll play with that in a few minutes, because I don't just want to see a target tracking policy, I also want to take a look at dynamic policies and schedule scaling and stuff like that. So let's leave it like that for now. Instance maintenance, this is also very interesting. This is how the instance are going to behave. So we might have no policy, so launch an instance before terminating. Alright, so if you're terminating one instance and you want the other one to come in, before you terminate the other instance, this is, you know, you can select this one, terminate a launch. So meaning terminate and then launch the instance, and then you can have a custom behavior, right? So you can give it some right, so you can have, you can customize it and decide, well, 90% whatever. So I'm gonna put a null policy for now, and that's it. Let me just create the auto scaling group. And see what happened here. Okay. So okay, so my auto scaling group, while the instances come up, right, let's take a look at what we can do here. Okay. So what do we have? We have a desired capacity of 2. We have a scaling limit between 2 and 10. Right? And we have some details here. So we have the launch template that we're using the default version. We're looking at the security group and the subnets that we're using. All right. And all right. So okay, so let's look at auto scaling. Okay, the first option here is dynamic scaling policy. So I don't have a dynamic scaling policy. Let me just create one. And remember we said that we have target scaling, and we have step scaling and simple scaling. Okay. So we can we can say target scaling and just use CPU utilization or any of these metrics, right, to decide when the instance is going to scale. Or we can do step scaling and use a CloudWatch alarm. We can set up a CloudWatch alarm that's going to trigger the scaling. And then we can decide. The thing with the step scaling is that we can decide what action we're going to take, right? We can step in, we can remove. There's a few actions that you can do, and then you can add multiple steps as well. But if we do simple scaling, then it's pretty much similar to step scaling. The only the difference is that we have less options, right? So you can create an alarm and decide that you're going to add, remove, or whatever. With the simple scaling, with step scaling, we can add multiple steps. Okay, so let's leave it as target. Tracking scale, leave it at 50%. Okay, let me take a look at my EC2 instances. Alright. Perfect, so they're coming up. Alright, the other thing that I wanted to check is the warm pool. And let's talk about how to use a warm pool to have faster scale out. Because what's happening here, every time we need to scale out, it has to go to the launch template and then build me a new EC2 instance from scratch. And it would take a little bit of time for the EC2 instance to bring me the instance that I need. So in that case, you can also use a warm pool, and with that warm pool, you can have instances that are already available to take over in the event that something happens. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at it here. So. Just real quick, let me take a look at the instances that we have. Okay, if we have 2 already, instance running. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the one pool. So here I can create a pool. So the first thing here is how do I want this pool to keep those instances. So what it's going to do, let's say that I want my maximum one pool to be the minimum number. Okay, the minimum number of instances that I want on my pool, let's say that is 2. Okay, and I want to now, I want to tell it how do I want those instances to stay in the one pool. They're not going to be part of the pool yet. They're not going to be active, but they can be ready to take over if there is a scaling event. So I can say, or I want to keep them hibernated, meaning they're going to start faster, right? Or running, right? In which case you would be paying for the instance anyways, or stopped. I'm going to keep them stopped, okay? And then I'm going to leave everything else default just to show you what happens now. Okay, so I have created my one pool policy. And now it starts populating my my one pool. Now I have 8 instances here. Okay. All right. So what that means, I have right now 2 active instances on my auto scaling group, right? I said that I needed a maximum of 10, so I need 8 instances ready in case something happens, right? All right, perfect. So I think that the EC2 instance should be already up and running. Let's see. Let's see if we can test this out. Okay. Let me look at my load balancer. All right, this is my DNS. Okay. So this is why I wanted to have access to the metadata, right? So I'm getting the instance ID, all that information for the metadata, so we can see, when it changes from one instance to the other one. You see I'm on another instance right now. You see it's changing instances, right? All right, let me go back to my auto scaling group. So the site capacity to have, the limit is 2 to 10. Let's see. See a couple of things. Instance management. So I have 2 instances right now in my auto scaling group, and then I have 8 on my one pool. Okay. Life cycle hooks. All right. So we can also control the instance behavior, right? When an instance transitions through a life cycle stage. So let's call these life cycle rules 1. So okay, so So the lifecycle hook in the auto scaling group is gonna let you pause the instance in a key moment. Right? Let's just put it that way. So let's say that you wanna pause it, when it's launching or it's terminating. The main reason is sometimes you want to use some events on event bridge or some of that to do additional things with your EC2 instance. Okay. So let's say that that this instance is a Windows server that is a member of Active Directory, and I want to give the instance plenty of time to to be unjoined from Active Directory. So I need to execute some Lambda function to clean up or something like that. So this is when you would do that. So you would give it a heartbeat, a certain amount of time at launch, or when it's, let's say, when it's terminating, right? So you're gonna use this heartbeat to give the instance plenty of time to execute that Lambda function, and do what it needs to do, right? All right, perfect. So let me talk about a couple of other things. I wanted to talk about what happens if I need to modify my launch template a little bit. So I can come in here and I can say, okay, modify launch template. I'm gonna create a new version, and what I'm gonna do here, I'm just gonna add a small change to my user data. Okay. All right. Let's do this. I'm just gonna add here test. Okay. Create template version. Now I can come here to instance refresh and start an instance refresh. All right, so replay instances. So I'm gonna say terminate on launch. Perfect. Okay, refresh setting. All right, ignore decide configuration, update launch template, and I'm gonna do version 2. Okay. And what this is gonna do is just gonna take replace my two EC2 instances and then add a new one. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna leave it here for now. So this was just a quick lab just to see how we can use an application load balancer, an auto scaling group, to manage a fleet of EC2 instances, maybe hosting a website, something like that.